Okay, so I took a poll yesterday of all y'all here on the channel. 9,000 responded. Thank you for that. I will do another one next week so we see the progress here. But wow, less than a quarter of those of you who responded have actually received a stimulus payment. I was hoping that number would be higher, but it looks like 23% received their stimulus in the correct amount, 1% in an incorrect amount, and the vast majority, 76%, are still waiting for their stimulus payment. Hopefully that 23% figure goes up to over 30%, 33% next week when I do this poll again. All right, so as I've been saying since it rolled out, we all know that the IRS Get My Payment tool has massive issues, okay? And Medibank out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota put out a statement yesterday. And this kind of gives us some clues to what banks are thinking right now. And basically this bank is saying, yeah, the Get My Payment tool has issues, which gives us all some validation, right? That this $5 billion bank is basically seeing the same things that we are with the IRS right now. I'll tell you what Medibank said in a second, but just for context, you remember that there are temporary accounts that the IRS uses for some individuals who had fees taken out of their refund or had advances taken out of their refund. These are bank accounts that the taxpayer really would have had no idea about in terms of account number. And last week, the IRS attempted to make stimulus payments to these temporary accounts. And this bank, Medibank, which runs Refund Advantage, said that they have sent these payments back to the IRS last week. But now Medibank is saying, even though we rejected these payments last week to these temporary accounts and sent the amounts back to the IRS to send to the actual taxpayer's real account, the IRS is now telling people on the Get My Payment tool that they're going to try to deposit the stimulus money to those same accounts again this week. On April 24th, here's what Medibank says. We were very concerned to learn over the weekend that the messaging on the Get My Payment website is now telling customers their payments are scheduled to be distributed back to the same temporary refund transfer accounts at the end of this week, April 24th, with no option to take action. This is not the direction that the IRS has given us. We believe the messaging was posted in error, and we have communicated as such to the IRS. This isn't part of Medibank's statement, but I'm thinking this probably extends to other facets of the Get My Payment tool. Other things going wrong with that. If the IRS screwed this up, what else are they screwing up right now? Okay, and some of you were asking about H&R Block. So H&R Block, similar thing. They use temporary accounts in certain situations when there's, for example, a fee taken out of the refund or there's a refund advance. Same thing with TurboTax and others. And here's what H&R Block said. We have seen IRS send stimulus payments to temporary accounts for some of our clients. As long as it is an open account, H&R Block is processing those and sending the payment to the client's chosen disbursement, check, Emerald card, or external bank account. We have also seen IRS send stimulus payments directly to the ultimate destination account without it passing through the temporary account. So it seems like there could be two people in the exact same situation, but for one of them, the IRS attempted to send it to the temporary account, and for the other, they forgot about the temporary account and correctly just sent it to their bank account, the actual taxpayer's bank account. And I've seen that in the comments. Some of you have said, hey, I got fees taken out of my refund through TurboTax or somewhere else, and I've already gotten my stimulus. And in other cases, people in the same situation are saying they haven't got their stimulus, and they're seeing funny business, unknown account numbers and whatnot on the IRS Get My Payment tool. So as I mentioned before, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of rhyme or reason to what's going on right now with the IRS Get My Payment tool. Okay, shifting gears. We've talked about how private debt collectors with a garnishment order or banks at which you're overdrawn could theoretically seize stimulus payments when they're deposited into your account. And some states have protections in place to prevent this, but there is no nationwide federal protection against this. But apparently now the Treasury Department is reviewing whether it has the legal authority to do this, to prevent private debt collectors and banks and other private entities from seizing the stimulus payment. Nothing's official here. It looks like this was just an anonymous tip from a Treasury official. All right, IRS announced yesterday, and I covered this at the beginning of my video from yesterday evening where I interviewed former Social Security Commissioner Michael Astrew. So yesterday, the IRS said that Social Security retirement, SSDI, SSI, railroad retirement benefits, and veterans benefit recipients with dependent children under the age of 17 need to file on the IRS portal for non-filers to report these children so they get the $500 for them. I told you that the minute the IRS portal dropped, and I did my walkthrough video for it. But now they're actually putting a deadline to this. They need to do so by tomorrow, Wednesday, April 22nd at noon Eastern Time, or else they won't get a stimulus payment for the dependent child. Okay, the only way they could get the $500 for them would be to file a 2020 tax return and claim the credit on there. So those groups, right, y'all are getting your $1,200 automatically in the same way that your benefits are typically delivered. Okay, $1,200 don't have to worry about. The $500 if you have dependent children under the age of 17, if you don't typically file a tax return, you have to use the IRS portal for non-filers by tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Time to report them to the IRS. Okay? I don't want you to have to file a tax return next year. I don't want you to have to wait for a year to get the $500. So if you're in that position, be sure to use the IRS portal for non-filers by noon tomorrow. Okay, one more thing. I saw some clickbaity article in Fast Company yesterday called "Dark Patterns Could Keep You from Getting Your Stimulus Check." It's like, ooh, dark patterns. What does that mean? The whole article is basically implying that TurboTax is being shady with its stimulus registration product by trying to steer users who use their stimulus registration product toward their paid products. Now, I went through the whole TurboTax thing, the whole TurboTax stimulus registration, TurboTax stimulus edition. I walked through it right here on the channel, and I didn't really see any of that. I honestly thought they're pretty straight up with their stimulus edition. You know, this isn't to say that in their normal free edition, they do try to upsell you for audit protection and some other stuff you probably don't need if you're just filing a free tax return with a W-2. Right? And I did cover these upsells and why I don't really like them in my TurboTax review that I did earlier this year. Okay, and you can check out that video. But in my opinion, the TurboTax Stimulus Edition didn't appear to try to upsell you to paid editions unless you were actually required to file a tax return, in which case the TurboTax Stimulus Edition isn't for you anyway. So, finally, apparently today the Senate should vote and, according to some, approve a $450 billion stimulus package for small businesses, hospitals, and coronavirus testing. Okay, and I know many of you out there are not small business owners, and so this doesn't really apply to you. But remember, we got to keep an eye on this because this bill has been Congress's focus right now. Right, getting more funding into the Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses. That's why there hasn't been a whole lot of talk right now about future stimulus checks for people. Okay, there was the Emergency Money for the People Act that's proposed. The Rent and Mortgage Forgiveness Act that's proposed, and I've gone over both of those in the channel. But that really hasn't been the focus of Congress right now. It's been infusing more money through SBA loans and other credit vehicles to small businesses, okay? But after this $450 billion stimulus for businesses and other organizations is passed, hopefully it's passed today in the Senate and signed by President Trump, then the focus will once again become how we can help all you non-business owners out there. Not that the $450 billion is gonna help small businesses that much anyway, okay? Because the money will go like that. I mean, $450 billion is really not a whole lot for the amount of small business owners there are in the United States. All right, now let's move on to questions. Some of you asked questions and comments about oil crashing yesterday, the price of oil crashing. Look, if you want to see a video about oil, let me know in the comments, but if there's not a lot of interest there, I won't do it, and I'll just keep focused on stimulus. So let's move on to stimulus questions. D says, Mr. Logan, when I went on there to try to fill it out on this computer, they asked for an IP number. I tried to call the number and no one answers. They're saying they're gone or not available, or there's not that many people working due to the virus, so I can't get identity protection number. And so she's basically asking how to get her identity protection PIN number. So there is actually a website where you can get your identity protection PIN number. And I'll put that link in the description. It's an IRS website. Okay, you can go there to retrieve your PIN. Now, however, you said you're on SSI. Okay, so your SSI will be direct deposited in the same way. Your stimulus will be deposited in the same way as you receive your SSI benefits no later than early May, according to Treasury. But just for future reference, you should try to get that PIN number, right, from the IRS just in case you need it in the future. Okay, link for that is in the description. Cheryl says, please help me. I owe the IRS well over $1,500. Haven't filed since 2016. I've worked off and on due to health reasons. I have worked, but not that much. I can't get my stimulus. Don't know what to do. I work as 1099. So, Cheryl, it sounds like your concern here is that you owe the IRS back taxes. Now, owing back taxes won't prevent you from getting your stimulus, okay? So file your 2019 return. All right, if you're required, if you have a filing obligation, or use the IRS portal for non-filers if you don't. Okay, otherwise, unless you're on Social Security or another one of those federal benefits programs, you're off the IRS radar's grid for the stimulus. All right, so don't be afraid that you owe money to the IRS. File your 2019, okay, or if you don't have a filing requirement, use the IRS portal for non-filers, and that will get you on the IRS's radar so you can get your stimulus payment. Dr. Doom, the IRS has sent my stimulus to the same closed bank account 2 times already, and the portal has updated again with the same closed bank account again. What can I do, as I can't update my direct deposit info or call the IRS? Unfortunately, there's not much you can do. As I touched on at the beginning of this video, even banks are recognizing that the IRS is just being really screwy here. And unless the IRS fixes this, allowing you to update your direct deposit information in the system, you will likely get a paper check. And it's so bogus. I mean, Mnuchin, like I said yesterday, he got on CNN on Sunday telling people, yeah, I really encourage people to go to the Get My Payment tool to update their direct deposit information. And that's exactly what people are trying to do. But then they get situations like this. Okay, and that just really pissed me off yesterday. And don't read any ideology into that. Some of you folks were saying, oh, you know, you're just some snowflake or whatever. Look, I'm just saying the facts, okay? Anyway, Foss says, so I filed my 2019 taxes, have a social security number, and fall within the threshold to be eligible, but I think I put the can be claimed as a dependent on my taxes, but my parents did not actually claim me. Am I still eligible to receive a stimulus? If not, this loophole is ridiculous. No one has answered this question. So, Foss, even if they could possibly claim you, regardless of whether or not they actually did, then you're not eligible. That's what the law says. Now, if they couldn't actually claim you, but you still check the box, you would have to amend your 2019 tax return to correct this. Only problem is, amended returns have to be paper filed, and the IRS isn't processing paper returns right now, okay? So it sounds like it will be a long process for you to get your $1,200. It's possible that you may just have to wait until you file your 2020 tax return and get the $1,200 as a credit. But you should still amend your 2019 return, okay, so the IRS knows that you were not eligible to be claimed as a dependent in 2019, if, of course, the facts support that. A Sound and Silent Zero says, please, as someone answer this question, if I filed 2018 taxes but didn't make enough to file 2019 taxes, do I still get my stimulus? Yes, Sound and Silent Zero, as long as you otherwise qualify based on income. Right? And if you have a social security number and can't be claimed as a dependent, then you will be eligible for the stimulus. The IRS will use your 2018 information, okay, 2018 direct deposit information if you received a refund, or if you did not receive a refund via direct deposit, they will mail a check to the address on your 2018 tax return. As I answered somebody yesterday, if you've moved since then, file a change of address with the Postal Service. Amelia asks, I filed my 2018 tax return my last year of employment before I retired. I received a $169 stimulus payment based on my 2018 tax return because I had not filed my 2019 tax return. I filed my 2019 tax return electronically this week, and my AGI was under $60,000. I received Social Security benefits. Will I possibly receive an adjusted stimulus payment? Now, the IRS at this point, hasn't stated that they will issue stimulus check fixes, right, for someone in your situation. And for those of you who don't understand her question, it appears that she was in that phase-out range for 2018, right? So, for example, if Amelia's single, she made more than $75,000, okay, but not more than $99,000. So she's in that range where she's still eligible for a stimulus, but not the full $1,200, okay? And so for 2018, the IRS sent her a stimulus payment, a reduced stimulus payment because she's in that range. But she's obviously eligible for the full stimulus based on her 2019 tax return because her AGI was under $60,000. Okay, so she's asking, hey, will I get the difference between the $169 based on my 2018 return and the $1,200 that I'm entitled to based on my 2019 return? Now, Amelia, like I was saying, the IRS at this point hasn't stated that they will issue stimulus check fixes. However, this is a possibility. I know that you should be receiving a letter from the IRS within 15 days after you received your stimulus. Okay, and maybe there will be further instructions in that. No one has seen that letter yet because it hasn't been 15 days since anyone received their stimulus, but there may be more information in that letter about what to do. Of course, if all else fails, you may be forced to file a 2020 tax return in order to receive the difference as a 2020 tax refund. But as of right now, the IRS really hasn't issued guidance on that situation. Ella asks, when will Social Security people start getting their checks? Supposedly this week, if you're on direct deposit for your Social Security benefits. Though I wouldn't be surprised if the IRS lags for some recipients into next week as well. Burning with a Y Sanders says, hey Logan, I put my information in last Wednesday. When the portal opened, it said I was eligible and it would direct deposit my payment to my bank account. Ever since then, when I go to the portal, I get this message, please try again later. We're unable to provide you with the status. The tax return information you entered does not match our records, or you have already accessed the system the maximum number of times today. Please come back after 24 hours and try again. So I've had clients who received the same error. For some of them, they had to change the way they input their address. The IRS has a little question mark in a circle next to the address field where you can see exactly how they want the address input. Others, they were simply trying to check too often. For others, we couldn't really figure out what the issue was. Okay, hopefully the IRS fixes. The Get My Payment tool is really acting up. It's really misbehaving. Jason says, the IRS says they're going to deposit on the 15th my stimulus funds in my bank account that I used on my 2019 taxes. However, that account is closed, so I assume they're probably going to mail me a check. I just went on their website today, and it's now saying it's going to direct deposit in the funds that closed on the 27th. Why are they trying to deposit the funds in the account if it's closed? Well, this is just the IRS being the IRS. It's kind of similar to the Medibank issue that I mentioned earlier. Not exactly the same, but kind of similar. The IRS is just screwing up, okay? And I assume that they don't fix it for you on the Get My Payment tool, so you can put your actual direct deposit information. Unfortunately, your stimulus will probably be sent as a paper check. But we'll see what happens with that Get My Payment tool that Manushin says is working so wonderfully. Deanna Dixon asks, question, my daughter is on welfare, but her 12-year-old twin boys are on SSI. Are they going to get a stimulus on their Direct Express card or be left out because of their age? I haven't seen this answered anywhere except all SSI recipients would get it, but it doesn't say if the only ones on SSI are children would get it or not. Thank you in advance. So, and this is kind of related to other questions I've seen. If you're on SSI, Social Security, SSDI, Veterans Benefits, Rural Retirement, you still have to be eligible, right? In the same way that other taxpayers have to, or others have to be eligible, okay? So there's not, it's not that everybody on SSI is going to get a stimulus. It's everybody on SSI that qualifies for the stimulus based on income, which I imagine they would based on income, but also based on not being claimed as a dependent by somebody else. Okay, will receive their stimulus automatically. So, to answer your question, Diana, if these children can be claimed as a dependent by someone else, and I assume they can, based on their age of 12, then they are not eligible for $1,200 checks. However, the individual who claims them as a dependent would be eligible to receive a $500 stimulus for them, so $1,000 total, assuming that the individual who claims them as a dependent is him or herself eligible for a stimulus payment. Sherry says, I'm disabled and currently separated from my husband. We did file a joint return in 2018, but I do not have access to this information and no idea where my estranged husband is. When I tried to get information on my stimulus check, it's requiring my 2018 AGI, which I do not have access to. My disability is direct deposit into my personal bank account, but the return refund for 2018, okay, so basically she's trying to access to get my payment tool, but it's asking for her 2018 AGI. So I would say in this situation, attempt to pull up an IRS transcript for yourself at irs.gov/individuals/get-transcript, and I'll put a link to that below. If you're able to get your transcript, you should see your 2018 tax filing information, which will hopefully help you see the status of your stimulus. Bob asks, hello, great channel. Thanks, Bob. I filed jointly, married for 2019. My CPA filed electronically on April 7th. I owed money, so I opted to pay electronically as to hasten my direct deposit stimulus check. Portal gives unable to verify, but where's my refund shows are returned received but unprocessed. Okay, so you mentioned you paid, right? Okay, that's your question. I read that if you filed with your bank info and owed money, the IRS won't use your info for sending payment, like a one-way door. That's correct, Bob. If you owed money, the IRS won't use your banking information for stimulus purposes. However, you will be able to update your direct deposit information on the Get My Payment tool. Okay, and assuming they fix their annoying errors, like unable to verify and whatnot. But if the IRS doesn't fix the Get My Payment tool, so you can input your direct deposit information, then unfortunately you may be expecting a paper check. Jeremy asks if I filed my taxes in 2019 as an independent, okay, so it's not a dependent, but clicked that I could be claimed as a dependent. I support myself, so how should I go about this? This is similar to another question that was asked previously. File an amended return, okay, and like I said to the other individual, unfortunately amended returns have to be paper filed. Okay, and IRS is not currently processing paper returns. They'll accept it. It's just going to sit in storage somewhere so you can send it in, but it's not processing them right now. So it's possible that you'll get the benefit of the stimulus on your 2020 tax return that you file in 2021 rather than receiving a payment in 2020. Okay, that'll about do it. If anything happens today, I will update y'all. Otherwise, look out for another update tomorrow and more questions answered tomorrow. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Bye.